Hello, lovely people. It's Sakino on Sunday again. And this weekend I am facilitating the second module of my Heal Your Roots Family and Systemic Constellation and Trauma Healing Training in Berlin. And in preparation of that, I have been thinking about family constellation and what it is about. And there are several principles that we deal with when we talk about family constellation and when I work with family systems. And one of the principles, actually the first one, is the principle of belonging. So today I would like to elaborate a little bit about belonging. For me, the subject or the theme of belonging always has been one that I was busy with all my life. First of all, because from the very beginning that I can remember, I did not feel that I belonged to my family of origin. Somehow I always felt like a stranger, different, not the same. I wouldn't really fit in. So this issue has been with me for a long time. And then later on, I tried to belong to several systems. I tried to belong to groups, to friendship circles. I tried to belong to specific religious circles. And in all of these groups, I always still felt like a random person, someone who was kind of belonging, but also kind of not belonging, because I always felt different from the so-called mainstream. So when I started working with family constellations, I understood that belonging is a very important subject issue. So when I work with family systems in constellations, the first thing that I always look for is the belonging. And now I will explain what it means. Belonging in the family of origin means I have a right to be part of that family because I was born into it. So belonging in the family of origin system means we all belong to our family of origin system by biology, because we were born into it. So we have the same right to belong to that family of origin as every other member of that family of origin. Nobody can be excluded, which is very important to note, because in every other system in our lives, we have a choice. We can choose to get married, for instance, then we create a new family system, and we can also choose to leave that system again, getting divorced, for instance. Or when we enter an association or a company or a friends circle or a school, we decide, we choose to become a member, and when we get accepted, we belong to that system like everybody else who has entered that system, as long as we are acting and behaving according to the rules of that system. But we can always at any point choose to leave that system. And that's a difference, a big difference to the family of origin, because biologically we are a member of the family of origin. We cannot just say, oh, I'm leaving, I'm not belonging anymore. Which does not mean that we cannot, when we are adults, leave the family in terms of choosing to live somewhere else, choosing to create a different value system for our own lives. But in the sense of biology, we still belong. We would not exist without our biological parents and their ancestors. And this is something that sometimes very creates turmoil inside the brain of people, because they are so attached to their feelings of hate, of resentment, of anger. They just want to leave and leave it all behind, which, as many of us have experienced themselves, including me, is not so easy. We cannot just leave and leave it all behind. If we haven't resolved whatever issues we are carrying inside of us concerning the family of origin system, and then in the end acknowledging in a particular way that without that family of origin we wouldn't exist at all. And if we are not able, willing, whatever, to acknowledge that, we cannot just run away, because we are taking all those feelings with us. So this kind of belonging is different from all other kinds of belonging. So when I talk about belonging as one of the main factors that we look at in a family of origin, for instance in a constellation, in a family constellation, I always look at the fact, at certain, I ask certain questions. Who belongs, which is the parents, all the children, the grandparents, the great-grandparents, and also people who have been, let's say for the parents, if they had former partners that they left or that died, so that this new family could be created, they belong also to that system, which is sometimes a little bit difficult to understand, but you can see it in family constellations, happens all the time. So belonging means I have a right to be counted in to that system by birth, and I cannot just be expelled. And it was probably more often in former times, like 100 years ago or even 50 years ago, that certain members of the family weren't really acknowledged as members. For instance, if someone was gay, or if someone was having a psychiatric issue like schizophrenia or a psychosis, or if someone was a murderer, they would be excluded. Sometimes they wouldn't even be mentioned anymore. Or someone who died early, or a child that was aborted, or the child that was born dead, wouldn't be counted in the family system. And this had an effect, or has an effect, on the ones that are born later. I won't go into the details of this, but it's always obvious in constellations that if someone is not included as a member of the family, it does disturb the family system in such a way that someone who is born later will show particular behavior patterns, like anxiety or other patterns, because they there is this thing called conscience, family conscience, which takes care that every member of the family is counted in. And these are principles or factors which haven't been created by theory. They have been discovered in family constellations. So the belonging factor is a very, very important one. So when you think of your family of origin, just see who belongs to that family of origin. And then later in life, when we choose to be members of certain groups, we also have a right to be counted in, to belong. And that's the same as in the family. The difference is that there is more free choice to enter and leave any systems, as I said before. Now, belonging to a system of choice is always, for me, has been a very big issue. I have been member in many different systems, working systems, religious systems, political systems, relationship systems, friendship systems. And for me, it's right now, at this point in my life, I enjoy this free choice, because I feel that when I choose to be a member of a particular system, I also feel free in how I behave in that system, how I engage myself in that system, in which way I want to engage myself in that system. And this freedom of choice is very liberating. And I can act from a standpoint of integrity with my own values. So I am choosing to belong to those systems in my life that allow me to live what I believe in. And if that's not granted, I will leave that system again. And leaving a system, I also found out in my life, leaving a system in a good way is saying thank you. Thank you for what you gave me while I was member of this system. Thank you for the presents I got from you. And thank you for letting me contribute to the whole. And now it's time for me to leave again and go my own path again. And this makes such a difference. So the belonging and free choice gives us also the freedom to leave. Now back to the family of origin, you can, of course, leave in a certain way. You can leave the family of origin by leaving your parents' home, leaving your hometown or village, and going to live and find your own way of living. But also the same goes here. You can do it in a much, much more satisfying way when you acknowledge what you got from your family of origin. And basic line is, you got your life from them. Without them you wouldn't exist. And if you can find inside yourself a space where you can honestly say, thank you for giving me life, and now I'm going my own way, then you will feel it inside how liberating that is. Because then you can leave all the things that have been gone wrong in your family behind and choose how you want to live. So belonging is something as an adult, and I'm a very free spirit. I really want to have free choice in everything I do. And I want to belong to groups or systems that go along with my inner values. And one of my inner values is freedom. Another of my inner values is living authentically. Another of my values is to be a loving person, to be open-hearted, to be generous, to be honest, and all of that and more. So this freedom of choice to choose where do I want to belong and where do I prefer not to belong. This is just the best thing I have reached in my life, because in the end I am my own person always, and I believe in the right of choice, the right to choose how I want to live, with whom I want to share my life, how I want to work, how I want to share myself in the world, how I want to contribute, in which ways. And that defines where I want to belong and in which way, because there are also very many ways of belonging. You can be a guest in a restaurant. So for the time being, you are belonging to the group of the guests in the restaurant. You can choose to be in a loving relationship with a person of your choice. And for the time being, you belong in that relationship with that person until both of you may decide that it is no longer suiting both of you to live in that particular relationship. So then you can leave by saying thank you for the time we had together. And now it's better for both of us that we go separate ways. So belonging for me is a very delicate issue and a very beautiful issue, and I hope I could explain a little bit what it means for me. And I will be happy, of course, for everyone who approaches me and shares your own thoughts with me and your own reflections about this issue. And I wish you a wonderful Sunday and a beautiful week ahead as always. And I love you all, and I'm happy that you are in my life. Thank you very much.